Did you know that your choice of ceremony side could affect everything from your wedding photos to your comfort, right down to whether or not your veil behaves or misbehaves? It sounds like such a small detail, but this is one of those decisions that can spark surprisingly big opinions from family members, your wedding party, and even your vendors. Is there really a right side to stand on for your ceremony? In this episode, we'll uncover the fascinating history behind ceremony sides, unpack why some people still feel so strongly about this tradition, and more importantly, I'll share 5 modern practical things that you should consider before you pick your spot at the altar. From how your floral arrangements frame your photos, to the way the sun and wind might impact your comfort, to those little secrets about looking and feeling your best. This episode will help you to make a choice that's perfect for you. So if you want your ceremony to feel as good as it looks, and maybe even ruffle a few feathers in the best possible way, stick around. Let's get stuck into it. Unbridely is a community of pro-wedding vendors who believe in freedom and integrity in weddings, giving you options, solutions, tips and tricks to create the experience and memories that you and your fiancé really want and deserve. Because we believe that weddings are a team sport. With how-tos, stories and interviews with recently married couples, we find out what went right and what they'd change if they could go back and do it all over again. I'm Camille, and welcome to the Unbridely podcast. Let's start with a little history. Traditionally, when you're talking about a Western ceremony, I guess from the Christian faith, like within a church, traditionally, the bride will stand on the left and the groom is on the right. As your guests, your family and friends are there in the church on either side of the aisle, they can see that the bride is on the left, the groom is on the right. And this custom dates back to medieval times when the groom needed his right hand free to draw his sword and fend off would-be kidnappers because, of course, in marrying you, he's shown to the world that you are of value to him. And so, it's a really great chance for any enemies of the groom to go, hey, let's kidnap her. We'll get a bit of ransom there. Or anyone who's objecting, no, you can't marry her. Well, I've got a sword off with your head. Romantic, right? But to go out on a limb here, I'm guessing you're not expecting a sword fight at your wedding. So do you still need to follow this rule? Spoiler alert, absolutely not. But also brace yourself, because if you choose the non-traditional ceremony setup, i.e. anything other than the bride on the left, the groom on the right, you're going to come up against some resistance. I know, and it sounds ridiculous to say this to you. But please believe me, when I am standing in front of a mother-in-law, grandma, godfather of a bride, and they insist that having the bride on the left as the guests are looking at you and the groom on the right is the traditional, correct, and only way to do it. Even if you've conducted over 1,000 ceremonies and you know that in modern times it's simply a preference, like choosing coffee or tea, you will still nod your head and go, yeah. Okay, because it's a sensitive topic. I was going to say for some reason, but that's not true. I know the reasons. Some of them are based in religion. Some are in just history, a really long history. Some in respect and tradition and the need to be connected to and revere things of the past and of your elders, if you like. But sometimes it's simply, that's not the way it should be done. And it's just not practical in this day and age. What I'm seeing more and more is that modern couples like to, 1, make their own bloody choices, but also 2, make modern choices. Today, engaged couples are rewriting the rule book for themselves. Their mums don't need to love it. Their aunties might roll their eyes and go, ugh, the youth of today. But maybe you're both brides. Maybe you're both grooms, or maybe you simply want to stand wherever it feels good for you. Maybe your ceremony setup is circular or in an arc. But there are 5 other considerations that you might want to make as well. When I'm running an on-site wedding ceremony rehearsal with my couples, I go through quite a comprehensive list of different elements that I want them to have a think about when they choose which side they want to stand on. Some of my couples, they love this attention to detail. And for my type A couples, raise your hands. While others will tell me, we couldn't care less, Camille. But that's the whole point, right? It's your choice. So here are 5 things you might want to consider to make your ceremony not just beautiful emotionally, but also help you to feel physically comfortable and safe while creating the best photographic and video opportunities all at the same time. So the first thing I tend to think about when I'm looking at a ceremony space is, what is it going to look like? What is the ceremony decor, decorations that you've chosen to have in that space, whether it's standing, sitting? What is beside you, around you, above you, behind you during your ceremony? Many couples choose to have an arbor. So think like a framework that denotes the altar or space for the ceremony. And these, commonly are made of wood. They can be made of a plastic that's pegged into the ground, or I've even seen ornate metal frames. The space can be decorated with plinths. So think, a heavy base or a stand that vases and arrangements can be placed on top of and sometimes down the sides of to give an arrangement some height. And there can be standalone floral arrangements that have their very own structure and support from frames and wires and sometimes cable ties that, cable ties hold the world together, of course. And ceremony meadows are becoming very popular too, when that floral display is set on the ground level. So have a look at, not literally, of course, but have a think about and use diagrams if your florist has supplied them for you. Have a look on Pinterest. Get your head around, how is this thing going to look? Is your arbor or floral arrangement symmetrical? Is there the same amount, the same height on either side? Or does it have a dramatic asymmetrical design? So if you're thinking of asymmetrical florals where there's a lot more or it's only on one side of the setup, if you've got a lush cascade of flowers, think about who's going to stand beneath that or closest to that, because it's like a highlighter on that person. Do you want those blooms framing your photos or that particular person on that side? Or do you want to be the star of the show without any distractions there? Whether you want to be standing next to it, beneath it, around it, have a think about how that might appear. Plinths and arrangements, are they blocking anyone's view? Could they overshadow one of you in the photos? That might change what side you're standing on when, it comes to having a look at it from a photographer's point of view. So if you think about your arbor and maybe placement of flowers on your arbor, if you imagine an arched arbor or maybe just straight up 2 sides with a piece across the top. Sometimes florists, floral designers really love to play up one side or the other side. Sometimes there's an equal amount of flowers on both sides of the arbor, but more often than not, they get a little bit more creative and a little bit more organic with how it appears, which means that if your taller partner is standing in front of it, it might block it completely from view, from your guests, from your photographer, from your videographer. So having a think about floral arrangement placements on and around your arbor will help you also to decide which side you want to stand on. If you had a sweary, chocolate-addicted, wine-sipping fairy godmother who could help you with your wedding planning, what would you wish for? Perhaps no more waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, wondering what you've forgotten, or fretting about your RSVPs. Maybe no more spreadsheets or post-it notes or endless to-do lists. Well, I can help you with all of that. Websites is an Australian wedding website builder, guest management software, and wedding project planner all in one. Why is this such a game changer for you? Well, imagine everything to do with your wedding being in one place, updated in real time in the cloud, shareable to anyone else that's helping you, password protected for your guests, with notifications to tell you what needs to be done next and by when. It's amazing, right? I love how easy websites is to set up and use, and how there are no ads on the platform yelling at you to spend more money on your wedding. To get started on your very own free wedding website, just head to wedsites.com. That's WEDSITES.com, and enter the code UNBRIDELYPOD, that's UNBRIDELY POD, to get 10% off their paid planning tools. The link is in the show notes. The second thing I'm thinking about then, once we take into consideration what's going to be physically there, are the elements. For many of my weddings, for most of my ceremonies that I conduct as a celebrant, we're outdoors, which is fabulous because Mother Nature can be your best friend or your worst enemy on your wedding day. So if you're having an indoor ceremony, you can totally skip this bit. But the elements like sun, wind, and weather are something that you really want to think about. So for the sun and the sunlight, especially in those warmer months where the intensity of the sun can be, markedly higher, where will the sun be during your ceremony? If you have a preference, you don't want to be squinting or sweating through your vows. If one of you is more sensitive to sunlight, you might consider swapping sides just for comfort. And shout out to those wedding party members who always ask me, hey, can we wear the sunnies during the ceremony? It's a big no from me. My opinion is wear them for photos before and after, but for the ceremony, you can cry like the rest of us and have your tears be seen. No, I think it's an important part. I think it's borderline disrespectful to be wearing sunglasses during the ceremony, but that's me. And then also have a think about the wind. Have a think about the site. Hopefully you get to have a look and walk around where you're going to get married before the actual day. I find with ceremony sites that I've been to before, there can tend to be a certain wind that comes through from a certain direction, and it's either a very windy spot or a sheltered spot. And so it really helps to go to these spaces around the same time of day is really smart. And have a think about your hair and your veil if you're wearing one. If the wind is blowing from one side, will your hair be all in your face? Will your veil do its best impression of like a runaway ghost? Stand on the side such that the wind will work with you and not against you. If the wind's coming from one direction, you want to be standing on the other so your hair is just blowing away from your face, and the veil, if you've got one, is going to be blowing away as well. The third thing I tend to have a chat with my couples about are their heights, whether or not they're wearing heels, and just general safety. So let's talk about logistics. And again, while outdoor ceremonies can look spectacular, feel amazing, there are these extra elements that you really want to be across. So your height differences, if one of you is taller, like a lot taller than the other, consider whether what side you stand on will accentuate or minimize that difference in your photos and to your guests. Sometimes swapping sides, if the ground is a little bit on a slant, if you've got a bit of an incline where you're standing, putting the taller person at the bottom of that incline and the shorter person at the top, it can give a more balanced look. If you think about your shoes, will one of or both of you be in heels? Make sure your side of the aisle is stable. No hidden holes, no uneven grass, wobbly platforms, things like that. And these decisions can just sometimes mean as much as just moving 2 steps either side. Because the only drama we want is in your outfit, your vows, and the decor, not in a sprained ankle. And fun fact, I sprained both my ankles in separate incidences at one very memorable wedding that I officiated, just by getting my heels stuck in like tuft-like grass patches. It's real. Please take care. I sound like such a mum here, but it's real. Please, please take care. The fourth thing I like to have a think about and talk my couples through are asymmetrical details of your outfit. So what you're wearing, your hair, and or your accessories as well. So if your dress has a dramatic one shoulder detail or a thigh high split on one side, or if your suit has a statement boutonniere or buttonhole, you want to have that facing your guests. And for most ceremonies, my couples are facing their guests. So if you can picture in your head, let's say we've got a heterosexual couple where we've got the bride on the left, the groom on the right, anything that the bride wants showing is on her right-hand side. Yeah, her right would be, as everyone's viewing it, your left. You're sitting there as a guest of this couple. Anything that the bride wants to highlight will be on her right-hand side, and anything that the groom wants to highlight will be on his left-hand side. And so an asymmetrical hairstyle. You don't want to have a part that's coming down over your eyes. Stand so your photographer and your guests see you at your best. I have no shame in admitting that I stood on the right-hand side for our wedding ceremony purely because of my, I'm tapping it like you can see, my vampire fang eye tooth that I wanted to have facing away from our guests and away from the camera. It's my better side. And I was just more comfortable that way. And with accessories, so any big statement earrings, if one is bigger or different than the other, if you have a hair accessory like a clip or a slide or a comb or something like that, you'd want that one to be highlighted. You just want to make sure these accessories are visible and not hidden. And the fifth thing that I talk to my couples about is the best side debate. Yes, it is a thing. We all have a side of our face that we like better in photos. Don't pretend you don't. And so to have a think about which side you prefer, you can practice. Like you can stand with your partner in front of a mirror or have a friend snap a few photos from different angles. Just take some selfies from different sides. Which side feels more comfortable? Which side do you both love in the photos? And if you smile like you mean it, if you're more relaxed, your smile will be more genuine and your photos will show it too. And for bonus points, your guests will be more relaxed as well. So some final thoughts on which side you stand for your ceremony. Yes, there are traditional sides. No, you don't need to stand on those sides. And I think it's more important to make it yours, like every aspect of your wedding. So at the end of the day, while there are traditions, there are no rules. Just what feels right for you as a couple. So talk it through, try a few options. It doesn't have to be a big deal or a big decision. And don't be afraid to break with tradition if it means you'll be happier or more comfortable or more authentically yourself on the day. I'll catch you again real soon. That about wraps it up for this episode of the Unbridely podcast. For the links and resources we mentioned, please head to the show notes. And if you love the show, please review and subscribe on the podcast platform you're on now so you don't miss out on a single episode. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, weddings are a team sport. Catch you soon.